How's it going, guys? Nathan from Nathan's DIY Garage, and today we're doing the valve cover gasket video on the E90 BMW. Okay, so a couple things here. UPS just brought the gasket. Under a very quick visual inspection, I could tell it's not the right gasket, and it took almost a week and a half to get here. So, not a very good deal. Big ass bee chasing me. This is a gasket for a metal valve cover. This is, I believe, for the N51 or N53. One of those two has a metal valve cover. This is a gasket for it. Now, our valve cover on here is dripping. We could probably seal it and probably work just fine. I was trying to do it right and get a new gasket, but I don't think we're going to wait another week to do that. So anyway, the biggest part we needed was some bolts. Now I found some bolts here. Everything's bolted in good. It seems to work fine. I was wanting a new set of bolts to do it all correctly. Well, it's like anything else. There's always got to be a problem with something. The bolts for the metal valve cover are actually different. They have different washers. These have like a little cone-shaped insert to go in the plastic valve cover. These just have a flat washer on them, and that just won't work. So we have a couple different options here. This thing needs to get done. It's like waiting and waiting and waiting and waiting. So I think what we're going to do, we're going to pull the valve cover back off, see if the gasket was folded a little bit, and see if it's usable. We might need some sealer on it. I think it'll be fine. I think we're still missing one valve cover bolt. That might be a snag. I really want to get this done because I really want to get the oil treatment put in, the oil flush, and get all that finished up. We can always do the valve cover gasket later. I hate to have to do it twice. I think we have enough stuff here to make it work correctly and not leak. So I guess without any further ado, let's go ahead and show you the tips and tricks how to get this thing off. Okay, so first thing we're going to do is get our tools together. We're going to need a pair of wire cutters or side cutters. We're going to need a 10mm socket. We're going to need an E10 socket to take these off. Now, if you don't have an E10 socket, you could actually go to the auto parts store. You could buy there's a 4 or 5 pack of these for, there's like $7. If you got more time, you get on eBay and get a bigger set of them, but it is what it is. Now this car is missing the cowling. So the cowling is in the trunk, and basically what holds the cowling on, there's 4 bolts up here. Is one there, one there, one there, and one there. I don't know if there's any bolts on the sides or not. But at any rate, the cowling all pulls out of there. You end up with this. Next thing you're going to want to do is go over to the ECU box. And I just have it sitting on her because we just had this all apart. The ECU box has a little slide thing here that pops up. It locks in there. It has a slide on the front and on the back. You pinch and pull up on the back and on the front. That pops the box off. That's the top of the box. Can now go over there. At this point in time, we're going to remove these from the box to give us a little more space. And somebody's got all that out of there too. The next thing we're going to do is we're going to get down here. If I could even see it. There's a little tab, and somebody's already cut this one off. It's right here. Usually it sticks out like that. You're going to have to cut this tab off almost back to that little black wire holder. That's going to allow you to get the valve cover out and in. So once you get to that point, obviously you're going to take off the vanity cover on top, and you're going to be down to the coil packs right here. So moving right along, if you look down in here, there is a bolt or a nut on a stud right there. There's also another one over here in this one. Now you don't want to take the nut totally off, you just want to loosen it up. And as you can see how I have the plastic up and over top of the nut, that's all you have to do. Now, depends on which E90 you have. You could have the support bars that lock in here, they go from the strut tower and they go in here. Now what we've done here, we just removed that little assembly and took that whole piece out, took both support bars out. I don't think all E90s have that. The ones that do are gonna have to have that removed. That's not a big deal. These are pretty big. Even use a regular socket. You don't have to use a Torx bit to get those off. The ones that go in here, you have to actually reach in here and take the big bolt out, which is right here. And I think that was a 15 or a 16 6-point will actually pull that out. That's a step everybody misses. That's a step you have to do, especially you have to take those nuts loose and flip that cowling up on top of that stud. That gives you just enough room to clear back here. So basically what we're going to do now, we're going to pull all the coil packs out and then just unplug, give it a turn. It pulls out like that. We're going to put those somewhere safe off to the side here, and somebody's already had the expansion tank bolts out, which we'll have to find those because apparently they're missing. And the expansion tank, you maybe wouldn't have to take it out, but this hose is going to mess you up. So instead of taking the hose off and letting the coolant out, just go ahead and get this thing loose where you can move it around. And it's actually really loose. Something flying in my hair. Actually really loose. It sucks at working on stuff outside. Stuff flies in your hair and wasps fly on you, all kinds of weird stuff. Anyway, once you have that loose, then you could manipulate that around to get it out. And next we're gonna remove all the coil packs like I said. We're gonna unplug our Valvetronic motor. Our Valvetronic motor is gonna have to be taken out. There's 2 10 bolts right here that take the gasket off. You take that off. Well, you don't even have to even take that off, I suppose. And there's 2 little Torx bolts right here that actually take the motor out. All you need to do is take the motor out. There is no wrong way to put that motor in. Obviously you might be able to flip it around and put it in wrong, but you do put it in so the plug is up and not under. You can't really mess that up. Once you do that, they already have all this stuff out of here. These all lock in here for the oxygen sensors. You could actually unplug those, or I'm going to unplug those, and lay this wire and lay this wire back out of the way. After that, you're going to pull the fuel injectors off. Now these have little clips, which the previous shop lost some of them. That's pretty sweet, right? You could actually take a little pry bar, and if you can't pull it, just jerk it out and pull it out by hand. Take a pry bar, get down in here, and you can just pop it out gently, and they should work right out without no problem. And once you do that, you just have all your bolts around the edges. You have your bolts. It's like a stud that holds the ground wire in here. That's 8mm, and that's a deep well 10 to take that stud out. There's another one back over there. You can remove that. You take all your parameter bolts out, and then you go on the back here, and there is one of those squeeze deals that goes to the PCV system and routes over to that. So once you can see it right there under the wire. It's kind of hard to see back there. Once you disconnect that, then we can now lift the valve cover out. So let's go and put you on the tripod, put you on time lapse, and let's get her done. Okay, not too bad. Granted, we had the cowl out. We're off in a little less than 15 minutes. Not bad at all. You can see the moisture inside that engine from before we got it when it rained down in it. This is kind of the whole thing's kind of a big shit show, but we'll get it figured out. So we had some leakage at the bottom. The gasket, which is right here, where was it at? So it would be, the bottom be right here. It was raised up just a little bit, but not bad. But the gasket isn't bad. It doesn't want to stay in the cover, which is kind of typical. So I think what we're going to do here, we have a parts washer. I think we're going to pull the gaskets all out of this. They're going to run this whole cover to the parts washer and clean out that groove going all the way around it. And then we're going to reinstall it after everything's clean and dried off. We'll take a little bit of sealer and we'll stick down some various spots all around it. Keep that gasket from falling out of there when we're putting it in. And yeah, so other than that, it's really not that bad of a job. It's still a little bit tight. You actually got to pick the cover up and lift this up a little bit, but it's more than doable. So I guess we're gonna clean that gasket up. We're gonna get that ready to reinstall. And yeah, we'll put it back together today. Like I said, the gasket still looks pretty good overall. And that's gonna be having to order a gasket in. We are gonna do a little more, I'd say, bolt bend diving. And we need one more bolt for this thing, for that valve cover. It has to be these aluminum bolts. Like that. So anyhow, we'll be right back. Okay, so here we are. The valve cover is off. The gasket's all cleaned. Now what we've done here, this gasket was kind of loose. So we need to do something to stick it on there. I don't see any bad spots in the gasket. Actually, I thought it was aftermarket, but actually a little further inspection on the back side of that, there's a little BMW logo. So if you guys are doing this, first thing you need to know, and what gets a lot of people, is this little tab right here that goes on the exhaust side. Right there's the oil cap. That tab goes right in the corner in the front of the cover. So that's pretty valuable information. And we've taken some of the right stuff, literally that's what it's called, the Permatex, and it's in this little cool little squeeze bottle. Everybody says this is the best. This stuff dries really fast. So we've taken a little dot, you can see here, there's a little dot about every 2 inches, and we stuck that gasket to it. You can see a little better over here. You can see Amber's buffing her headlights. It got buffer compound all over the parts washer. And then, so this little dot, that way if you have to take it off, you can take it off. I mean, you could put a bead in there. It's probably gonna be a pain in the ass getting it off. So we didn't do that. We also stuck these in, even though these weren't having a problem falling out, the centerpieces, we stuck those in there too. So those gaskets are stuck on there very nice. And I guess we'll give this a little bit here. I've never used this stuff before. So it says 1 minute gasket. Obviously, we'll give it a good 10 minutes. And let me see here. Does it actually say how long it takes for it to dry? It does not. 5 minutes. Assemble parts in 5 minutes. So we'll give it 10 or 15 minutes, see if it'll tack up enough to hold that in there. And then we're ready to reinstall. We take a microfiber and some carburetor cleaner and clean off all the oil just a little bit. We'll clean off the mating surface and hopefully that holds it in there. We're ready to reinstall. We may not finish this tonight. The sun's already going down, but at least when I get that cover on here, and then maybe tonight I'll look for some more bolts. We'll need one more bolt to make the whole set. And hopefully, once we do that, we get this thing put back together just enough to start it. We could put our engine flush in here, and it needs to be idle for about 15 minutes. The bottle of that says. Then we're going to drain it, change the filter. Probably going to pull the lower pan off because it's a freaking disaster, and see what's all laying in there. I'm hoping to find a latch for one of the coil packs is laying down there somewhere, and maybe we're missing bolts. So I don't know, we'll see. It's quite the disaster. All right, so we're back. About 10 minutes. That stuff is dry, guys. the right stuff might be the right stuff. So we'll see. It's probably gonna be a shit show putting this back on. Put on the date went on real easy, but since the camera's on, it's probably gonna be a total freaking nightmare. So we're gonna go ahead and flip it around. Something like this. And all the bolts stay in this cover. Try to lift these wires up. Like I said, first thing I do is take my phone in my pocket because I for sure seeing that getting broke. It should fall right in there. And of course, as soon as I turn the camera off, it slipped right on there. Okay, so it's almost down. Before it goes all the way down, take your fingers, take a feel, and make sure that gasket didn't slip off of that anywhere. It feels good all around. And then we're going to line up our cam sensor hole next. So like that. I'll pay special attention back here to make sure we're good. That is all good. We're just going to seat it down like that, and it is on. So let me go get the torque wrench, and we're gonna go ahead and torque all the bolts to spec, and we'll be right back. Well, holy crap, guys, we're making gains. We were missing this bolt right here. Couldn't find it anywhere. Just happened to look down in the E-box, and it was down in the freaking E-box. So we did find bolts for the other ones. Now we torqued the whole setup to 7 Newton meters, which was like hardly anything at all. And then you're supposed to let it set 30 minutes. This is just what I read. Go back and torque it another 4. Sounds shady as hell. This thing should have had new bolts more than likely, but we're weeks away from getting those at this point. We could always go back and change them too. We could just do them one at a time and do it like that, and then torque them all in the sequence. It's not really that hard to get to that, so we could definitely do that later. Yeah, so the right stuff worked really good on our gasket, held it in there really nice, turned out really good. So I think at this point we're still missing a latch for this coil pack, so I don't know if we're gonna be pretty damn lucky we find that. I think I have another one of those coil packs laying around. I might still latch off of it. If nothing else, I'll put it right on the front one. That way we could switch it out when you switch the whole thing out. And I think we're pretty much wrapping everything up. We're going to put the eccentric shaft motor back in, plug your fuel injectors back in. We're going to secure the E-box lid, just kind of plug everything up. Probably another 10 minutes, and we should be getting close. All right, so we're up and running. A little bit of ticking, not bad though. Nothing's leaking. Since it's been running, when it took the ratchet, it just kind of checked all the valve cover bolts again and make sure that they're still tight. We have a bolt stuck in there just to hold that out of the way. I got to find some bolts for that because they're gone. And everything's running nice and smooth. Have a tailpipe. It don't sound too bad, but it looks like rain tonight. I think we're gonna have to put this cowling back in tonight. I don't want that to get rained in since everything's good now. And so I guess tomorrow what we're gonna do is we are going to put the engine flush in, let it run for 15 minutes, because now it can run for 15 minutes. It's not leaking everywhere. And then we're going to drain the oil, take the skid plate off, change the filter, fill it back up with 0W40 synthetic, and then see how we are. But right now, it's not bad. It sounds pretty damn normal, actually. Hopefully it stays sounding normal and we can make it even better yet. And yeah, that's it. So that's all for the valve cover gasket swap, or gasket change I should say, for the N52 engine. This goes for E90, E60, E92, E91, so on. That's it guys, thanks for watching.